get into that.
But yeah, all right, we're back. We're recording now. Trip overall was good. I was just down in Austin there for like client visit. But yeah, dude, trip was really good. It was a cool city. Have you ever been?
No, I was gonna ask, is it cracked up to what it's all been hyped up to be?
It's wild. Like they're building apartment buildings like crazy downtown. It's interesting. It's like they have like this space called the Domain that was like essentially a property management company just came in and just like a couple streets and just built all bars and shops and restaurants. Like it's like very fabricated, so they call it the Domain. It doesn't like feel, I don't know, it feels very like new and not like it's been
Not
there for some
Austin.
time. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like this is like forced, like you could be anywhere.
Yeah.
So downtown Austin's so sick, and then we went out in over at East Austin a bit too. Really beautiful. Like they have like the little river that goes through. Dude, it was like 90 degrees out, like every day in
Wow.
at the in October here. But like tons of running trails, tons of like right along the river there. Downtown's really cool, very clean city, and like very nice. Like overall was cool. We didn't do like any. It was like a work trip, so like we were like going out in, like that downtown area a bunch. Like we didn't get to do any like outdoorsman stuff.
Sure.
But the city in general was cool. It was like very clean, very beautiful.
Wow. Yeah, I want to make it out there. I've got some family that live out in Texas, actually not too far from there in Bastrop. So I think that'll be on the bucket list and going to go see a Bucky's as well.
That would be classic. They dude, it's funny too. They I think it's called like the music capital of the world. And in the airport they have live music going, like multiple places of people just playing music there in
That's
the airport.
interesting. Yeah. Have you ever been to Nashville?
No,
Okay, so
that's on the list.
it feels like that at Nashville too. I think it's
So
just
I've
a
heard.
Texas Nashville. Like we've had some big clients out in Nashville years ago, and we would go out 2 or 3 times a year. So I've been to Nashville probably more than I probably want to. Um,
I've heard great things. But yeah,
yeah, it's fun.
similar vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super like I don't know. It's kind of like this weird hipster kind of vibe in the middle of a place that you wouldn't expect it to be. So it sounds very
Austin's
similar.
kind of like that too.
Yeah, that's
Definitely like a
awesome.
little hipstery vibes, but it was really cool. It was really cool there. Um yeah, I would definitely recommend visiting if you haven't been. It's definitely a cool city to go to.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but dude, I just don't know the heat. I just couldn't live there full year round. Like it legitimately was like 88 degrees at like 7, 8 o'clock at night, sun's down, and it's just brutal. But
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, it was hot this week here. I mean, it got into the 90s, but like low 90s. But at night it cools down, So I'm like, that's okay.
for sure,
Melts all my Halloween decorations though.
dude, it's crazy. It's that time of year.
I know it's already October. Um, wait, when did we start this? Like when do when's the first one? Like, has it been a year? I feel like it's got to be sometime soon, right? Let
Um,
me look at the channel for a second here.
I was gonna say I could pull up Riverside to see, but dude, it's got to be in that range.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
I mean, it says 1 year ago was the first video.
1 year ago, we posted it on. When was
That's wild.
Holy shit. Okay, dude, August 31st. So it's been over a year.
Oh, nice. We should have did a 1 year recap episode.
Well, I mean, I guess the only thing difference is that I don't have a mustache in that first one, which is weird.
I know.
It's never going away now.
That's so classic. But yeah, I think, dude, I will say I love the addition of thumbnails on the channel. It's just so funny, just like off the start, not knowing anything about podcasting. Even the first two have like the Riverside watermark in it.
Sure.
Uh, but I think it's just gotten so much better. Like the content's gotten better, and the thumbnails, the shorts, like it's definitely progressing here.
Yeah. It's just kind of natural momentum that will keep going. I mean, 21
100%.
subscribers, 92 videos. I mean, it is what it is.
I'll take it.
So what do you want to get into today? I mean, we literally jumped on. I was like, we were starting to catch up. I'm like, just hit fucking record and let's just do this.
Much easier. I
Yeah.
know you pinged me the OpenAI introduces Canvas.
Yes, let's chat about that. So it's kind of a shitty name, to be honest. Let me pull it up on my site just so I have it. I just think it's too close to Canva, right? And
That's what I thought
Canvas.
when you first sent it to me. I was like, wait, is this like
So
a an
whoever's their,
integration with Canva?
I mean, I guess they got their funding and now they're releasing new stuff, which, okay, cool.
Oh,
Um,
true. For recording this, they literally just announced, I think yesterday, 6.6 billion in funding, largest funding round ever raised. And then I saw they also had like a $4 billion line of credit. So they have plenty of cash to work with here.
yeah, they're gonna be throwing it around. So
Oh,
probably maybe
real quick,
sure. Yeah,
before you get into that, I know last episode, I think it was last episode, I think it was last episode, maybe the one before. But we were chatting about, the whole like OpenAI, like because of those three team members left, and literally
yeah,
just Sam and the like one dev person there. Like again, they largest funding round ever raised. I'm sure those people all knew this was in the works. Like that just doesn't happen. That takes weeks and months of planning to get to that point. So I'm sure all those people knew. And it was interesting because we were chatting about the All In podcast. They covered a similar topic, and they were like, "Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like a red flag. It's like if you know this is going to $1 trillion company, like why would you leave if you were early on and you knew the founder, the founding stories, early days, and kind of clear the trajectory that it's probably going to head on. So it's just interesting to hear like our conversation and then listening to the All In podcast after and had pretty much the same take.
yeah. I think there's a thing going on between All In podcasts, some JRE that's thrown in here, and then like our normal topics that we discuss that kind of gets all blended up. It's like, okay, we can sometimes we
Totally.
talk about it before that, so it's yeah, for sure. Very interesting. But so yeah, this canvas or canvas, which is a horrible fucking name. Um, Basically what you can do is you can create a new GPT. They're saying it's mostly for writing code or writing articles, and um, you basically you start like your typical prompt, right? Like I actually did one for like, hey, I want to. I said, hey, I want to just write a post about rucking. So what happens is you write that initial GPT, and then your screen expands into this kind of editing uh, view of the paper that you're working on.
I'm
And
just going to pull up a screen share
yeah,
while
let
you're
me
doing
do
this because
that.
they have like a good little demo.
Yeah, you know what? I'll pull up my actual example. Let me do that instead. Let
All
me
right.
just this ready. That's probably a visual here. That would be helpful. Uh, okay, cool. So let me just share my screen here real quick. Is that upload it? Just want presentation. No, I just need screen and entire screen. Why not? Whatever. Okay, so I basically said in the prompt, okay, I want to test this out, and let's just do a piece about rucking. I did my first ruck today. We'll talk about that later. And so, drafts up this first post, and it was kind of short, and I was like, okay. I told it, hey, let's build out more comprehensive headings for this, etc. So I started to build it. So all these prompts change in here for it, and then you can modify adjust the length. So if I say, hey, keep the current length or adjust it, it will then actually rewrite the post all right there. Let's say I don't like this title, like what is rucking? I can ask ChatGPT just for this section, improve this title to be more, I don't know, catchy. Totally obscure, but let's see what it does. And there we go. It just changed that one section of the article, just that heading. So it's like a really cool editor that you can use. So instead of like doing a mass updates, it can do that, but also very individual sections. So if you don't like something here, like here's 15% of my body weight gradually up to 30 pounds. I'm going to ask it now to like, can you provide a citation for this stat? Let's just see if it'll actually do this. What is the? I've added a suggestion, comment, citation. Considering providing a citation or reference for this adds credibility to your advanced up your readers. I didn't add it, so that's weird. That's strange. I guess hit
So it's not
apply.
perfect.
So I don't know. Maybe it's applying it. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. Just I had to click apply, and so
Oh, okay.
and then it says, okay, C. Smith 2020 recommends for setting. didn't give me the link. So it's just a really powerful way to edit a piece of content and evolve it. You can also change the reading level. So let's say if I want to keep this, let's see, I want to go to kindergarten. We're going to make a kindergarten post about rucking. So give it a second. It's going to then rewrite everything in here to be at more kindergarten level. I'm not sure how that's going to work because it was an expert level. Yeah, I mean, it is more simplified. And you can also add emojis. So there's kind of some interesting things at length. But as far as like creating a blog post, it's a way to really more personalize the content, because before you just have a prompt and then you get the full text back and then you're kind of stuck with it. And maybe you can tell it to change this or change that. It's just kind of like inline editing for your content. So I think it's pretty powerful to really evolve content pieces. They said this can be for coding as well. I'm not a huge coder, but I can see it if I'm working on something like, hey, I select this code. Can you modify this? Or I want this statement instead. So it's an interesting, different interaction rather than that comment or prompt, get a response, prompt, get a response, prompt. This is kind of like inline prompting, I guess you could call it.
And I think like that bottom right, whatever that like little like editor tool is,
Yeah.
that pencil. Dude, I love the design of that, of like the sliding scale and just like, hey, adjust the length, or like the difficulties,
Yeah.
like from expert to kindergarten, and like I think that's such a cool design. Whoever like that, shout out to that team because that's really cool. I could totally see that integrating with like a ton of different other writing tools. Like I feel like this is pretty clear. Like this is definitely going to be, the future of writing. I don't know, maybe
There's
not
a
for
lot of
everybody,
softwares
but
that kind of do this already when you're writing content and being it. So they've just kind of cloned it and made it better.
yeah,
So it's definitely going to be a hit on, other SaaS companies out there,
no
um,
doubt.
products, especially like
Plus
coding
two,
products too.
plus two, like I think, like right now, I just thought of a use case right now. Like I know a lot of times on the SEO side, we'll provide a client with like a content outline, say, hey, here's the topic. Here's like the H1 you should use, the H2 and H3, and then here's some keywords you should consider for anchor text. And like you can get more sophisticated with that, but like you could just kind of have a high level content overview kind of outline.
Yep.
I would assume you could just upload it and then say, hey, build out a blog post or an actual like full page on the announcement blog post from OpenAI. They do a really cool job of having like a little GIF video of like showing you how to use the tool. And in their example, they just upload a note doc and say, turn this into a blog post. So I would assume you could do the same thing with like a, piece of
Content
like a
outline.
content outline.
Yeah, we provide our clients content outlines, and we'll actually have titles, and we just have more Ipsum. So we do like the clients to kind of write the content in certain situations, especially if it's more scientific. But in this scenario, you can always kind of go back and forth. Client improves the content outline, and then you feed in it from ChatGPT and go from there. How unique
Exactly.
the content is. One thing I did do in here is when I was writing the content, I did ask it to rewrite it based on as I was an expert and through it from my voice and provide experience. It's completely fabricated,
That's
but
wild.
that's one thing Google does kind of look at with content as far as like, do you actually have experience with this rather than just like, here's a general post about rucking. You
Yep.
need to like pepper in, like, oh, I've been doing this for 6 months. I've had this challenge or that challenge. So like that final piece about rucking was like I've been doing it for 6 months and here's my expert article on it. So I think search engines, it's going to be a really hard to determine that. Um,
I feel like that with everything just moving forward now. Like it almost feels like you can like I don't know. Not you can't trust anything, but like with all of these AI video tools and voice tools and deep fakes and everything and just the abundance of new content, I just feel like it's going to be really tough to like verify sources. It's just going to get way like muckier in like in anything,
yeah.
politics and business or whatever. It's kind of like I don't know, is this actually real or was this AI generated and nobody truly knows? It's like very, very interesting.
Yeah, and talking about not trusting everything, I've got another story to segue into, if you wouldn't mind when we
Yeah,
think it.
totally.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let me get. I just want to make sure I get this right. It's not my take, and I'll try to do the best at explaining it. I'm notoriously shitty at explaining things, so we're gonna go with it. So, Cindy Crum from a company called Mobile Moxie put out a YouTube video, which we'll link in the comments. I haven't sent this to you yet, Trevor. So basically, let me just read the summary. Cindy Crum explains how the second phase of Google's mobile first indexing is actually real user metrics and rendering from Chrome on real users' actual computers, and the implication that this has for SEO, privacy, and entrenching Google's monopoly in the US and around the world. This covers previously unknown details about Google's data collection practices, focusing on the implications of the 2018 change to mobile first indexing. We're exploring how Google leverages Chrome data for indexing, the resources for intensive nature of executing JavaScript, and the impact on organic clicks. It includes the discussion of manipulating user behaviors for personalization of ads and potential implications of the future of AI, diving into uncovered hidden truths behind Google operations.
Real quick before we go into like what that actually means, just real quick, Sydney Crum, who is she?
Cindy Crum, she is from Mobile Moxie. She owns it. It's her company.
So what is that they like journalism or like,
No, they're I believe they're an agency.
Okay.
Pull up what they do. Yeah, they're digital marketing tools. They have some tool sets. So affordable mobile focused performance tool and markets. So it looks like
Got it.
do have some tools behind
Kind of like
this.
a mobile like agency
Yeah,
there.
they've got a couple different tools like for testing live SERPs, ranking tracker. Maybe it looks like yeah. So
Nice.
looks like they built some tools
Okay,
for it.
cool. And then once you get into this explanation, I think just to start, this will be helpful context for everybody. Mobile first indexing. Could you maybe just explain like what that even is or means, and then
So
what she's
yeah,
trying to say here?
yeah. So 2018, Google made the change, letting everybody know they're going to do mobile indexing first. So when they go out to the web, instead of looking at the desktop of your website, which most people on a normal computer, that's your desktop, they're going to look at what a mobile experience looks like. And that's what they're going to use for indexing, because sometimes the desktop and mobile can be a little bit different. The idea at the time was that most searches are being moved from desktop to mobile searches. So why don't we
Totally.
do what the behavior is doing or what the user is doing, and let's have that experience in our indexing, because that could change, how you index based on the mobile experience on the website. So that was the essence of that. And so what she is saying here is that, I guess one of the best, easiest examples that I pulled from this video was Google has a hard time traditionally as a search engine crawling websites that have JavaScript. And most all websites have JavaScripts now. And it's just additional scripts that run that add features to the website, like searches, sometimes navigation bars, and features for it. And typically they would not crawl JavaScript because it can be difficult to do and very exhausting on just the server load on to execute it. And so what Cindy is theorizing in here, and this is actually comes from a little bit of the inspiration of the Google leaked document, the algorithm leak document that happened a couple months ago. One of them being like click behavior, etc., being in there. So getting back to the JavaScript execution, in a very basic way, if Google is going to crawl the web and execute every JavaScript that's out on the internet, it would be really demanding on server resources. Like literally, it's like a physical thing of crawling the website and collecting that information. And it would cost a lot of money to do that because it takes bandwidth to do so. So she is theorizing, based on a couple of different things that you can watch if you didn't get into, that the way that Google got around that, or is help assisting in doing that, is actually taking the data from your local Chrome browser. And when you're cruising the internet and your local Chrome browser and your phone or on your computer, in its processing JavaScript, and is then reporting that back to Google, because your Chrome does track everything you do. There's a couple ways you can look at command lines, and you can see where it clicks on things and everything. So it actually has your whole like your history on clicks, where it's executing from, and it can send it back to Google. So it's almost a way of doing. I was telling Ricardo, it reminds me of like back in the day downloading music peer to peer. So it's like using peer to peer technology or thought process behind it to index and crawl the web. So that's kind of one of her biggest things that she was talking about. And that's a privacy. Like I didn't tell Google could use my bandwidth and my experiences to then feed their algorithms, right? So that's basically what this is about, is some of that privacy and that user behavior. But that does back into how much data is Google using from people's browsing experience on a website to impact their ranking algorithms. Previously, they wasn't really talked about like, oh, it's a silo. They don't look at user behavior in browsers. But now with the Google leak document, this coming out, just think about it like logically, right? If you own a search engine and you have a technology that people are cruising the web and you can see how good a website of experience is, why wouldn't you feed that to your algorithm? And so that's what they're talking about. That's what Google's doing behind the scenes. And honestly, I think that's true. There's part of that algorithm that's feeding it.
It would make total sense. Yeah, that's pretty wild. I thought, yeah, great job explaining that. That was very well done there. Because I hadn't heard this yet, and yeah, I mean, to your point at the end, like if you kind of own both, like why would you not? Because that's only going to improve the search ad side of things and the placement of those ads, and all of their advertising business.
Well, think about so I was thinking just organic, right? But now you talk about ads. How do they get that conversion tracking of an experience coming through with a cookieless universe, etc.? It's like they have all that user behavior already in the Chrome browser to pipe it back over.
True. But I mean, I don't know if but like I could totally see this then like leading to a case to be made to split up the company there. Of like there's this has to be, ads needs to be a whole standalone business on its own. But I don't know. I feel like that's going to be a tough one to monitor. Like I remember, and I know we just talked about All In and how like there's a lot of overlap there. They spoke about back in the 90s when Microsoft was hit with a lot of antitrust stuff. They brought in actual like federal employees to go into like work in their offices and monitor like pretty much everything along the way. I would almost assume you need to take like a similar approach there. Because say in that world, if you even do split up that advertising business first and split out Chrome into its own, I don't know, like you're going to tell, I don't know, maybe that would work and that would be separated, but how would like to monitor that and how to make sure that that's enforced, I feel like is quite complicated.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I think it could be warranted. But here's the thing too, right? Knowing of like these tinfoil hat talks about basically Google using Chrome browser information to feed the SEO algorithm, the paid algorithms. Let's just theorize it's true. Okay. We've had this question come up plenty of times from clients. Is that, does running Google ads help my organic rankings? The traditional answer is no. They're completely siloed. You gotta get where I'm going at though?
For sure. Sure.
Because, okay, they are completely siloed from a front-facing perspective. But let's say, Trevor, you go ahead and spend $10,000 on Google Ads, and you drive users to your website that hopefully they're relevant traffic, and they're having click behavior happening. And it's getting recorded in the browser. You're paying for traffic to come influence your website. Okay. On the back end, the Chrome browser's got a bunch more data set now that's going to then feed back into your SEO algorithm. So for the first time ever, I would say I can legitimately make the connection that running paid ads, in theory, could help your SEO because the bridge is the browser data.
Totally. I think that makes total sense. I'm curious to see how this thing plays out.
That's fucking crazy. Like, holy shit. And so I was listening to that other podcast with the French SEO guy, which I'll get to get his name for it, all that. But a lot of it he was talking about, like, you need to have like a legitimate brand, like get traffic to your website because it definitely helps Google understand you more. And that kind of brings back that whole connection point of,
Yeah.
hey, if you get more traffic, and I'm doing this like firsthand for like our Collective 42 site. Like we just started doing some ads. We just started doing some SEO for stuff, and we're trying to bring more momentum in. But we've seen momentum happen over time to where I think, feeding it with traffic can be beneficial on both sides nowadays. And I mean, you've seen it, Trevor, probably like you ramp up a paid campaign and then the SEO team is looking good too. Like there is some
For sure.
correlation that's happening. I just had never had thought about the browser connection in this experience, because how would they connect them? They connect it with the
Yeah.
browser. There's even something like the Core Vital Webs tool that's in Google Search Console. And if you're so new on your website, they literally say, we do not actually have enough user data experience, because that's where it feeds from, to give you a score. So it's like, okay, right there, they say they use real user data to
True.
give you your score. So why wouldn't they pipe it back into the algorithms for SEO, for paid? So,
Would you say that's a bad thing?
honestly, no, because here's the problem, especially on the SEO side. The only way that they could have, the variables that they could use to determine how to rank a website are somewhat limited, right? It's your on-page optimization, keyword density, length, quality of the site itself, link building. That's it. And those are all kind of gameable experiences. And so this browser data is kind of like this middleman moderator, because it's really hard to fake browser data. Sure, there are services out there that you can do and mimic user behavior, and that's probably what a lot of people are doing too. But let's just say in general that is hard to influence or game. So attaching that on, they're like, hey guys, we have these other signals we can throw in here that's not as gameable. Maybe we should do that. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it does, hopefully, I don't know how they build the algorithm behind it, but the general, I guess, first principle rules of it all, it's not a bad thing. Let's connect another signal of actual user behavior, on-page content, link building authority. That should give us the best possible rankings. So I don't think it's a bad thing from a principle of how do I make a really good search algorithm. I think it's a bad thing from a privacy perspective.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Like, it's horrible.
Like I feel like I would probably say something very similar to you there. I would just like to see more details of like how that's all connected there. So if you were to, like, for example, if somebody at Google, um, you know, somebody had the ability to look up like, hey, what's Steve's like browsing history? And like literally be able to see your browsing history and be like, he went on ESPN.com for 27 minutes this day, and then he went over and like, no, like you specifically, your browsing activity and like to that detail, that's crazy. Like that's insane. But if it's a more like encrypted system where I don't know, data's hashed and anonymized, etc. So it's not like Steve is on ESPN.com, but it's more of like this user's on ESPN.com and this is what they're doing. I don't think, dude, I don't know. I doubt it's all, I don't trust that like it's all anonymized, encrypted. If that's the case, I don't know, maybe it is, but I don't know. I would assume at some point, if you're tracking that, you probably can tie it back to a person, which is like pretty disgusting to think about.
Yeah, I
You know,
agree.
like if
I,
there was a way in which it was completely anonymized and it was just used to learn how people interact with the site, how many people are on there and like what they do, and is this like a legitimate, user experience? Because to your point, I could see how that makes sense, It's like a verifiable, hey, there's a ton of people that go to this site. This is a legit brand, it's a legit company, it has a good service. Let's promote them in rankings or whatever. That makes sense, but it's that piece of like, could somebody actually find out those specific users and what they were doing on the site? That's crazy.
yeah, I don't think it's anonymized or has that technology based in there, because we struggle on like the paid side of things as far as getting keyword data. and they say that they don't give us everything because they need to keep it anonymized. Even like
That's
Search Console doesn't give you everything because somehow the searches are going to be able to identify someone specifically. Like, come on, bro. Like, figure out a way to at least, like, I don't know, block it out. Like, give me half the search query and sensitize the fucking
no
sensitive
doubt.
information. So I don't think so because they're not doing it there.
The other piece too is I remember the whole push towards like GA4 and like eventually cookies are going to go away, which is, kick down the line even more. Which I feel like you could probably make a case that Chrome's never going to get rid of cookies unless like they're actually forced to. But I think they were having a lot of issues figuring out what they were calling like the hash data, where essentially that user data was like hashed and anonymized and it wasn't tied back to individuals and IPs. And like that was kind of their response to how are we going to track this stuff if we don't have cookies? And I know there was a lot of issues along the way there. So if they were having issues with that piece, I don't know if they would have like something kind of similar on the back end, with Chrome and that connection there.
Yeah,
I highly
no.
doubt that.
Cindy does bring that up, the Google Universal and GA4. I don't recall how she phrased it. But she definitely brings it up as far as a talking point.
Yeah, because I remember that was the whole push was like, hey, all of this data, it's not going to be, through cookies. It's going to be through like whatever they kind of phrased it as. And they were like, hey, all of this is hash data. It's anonymized. And there's other protocols in place to like protect user privacy there. But I know that was giving them a ton of issues.
Okay, so I just listened to while you were talking. I was kind of doing both. And one of the points she's talking about is like, think about Google Universal and the data that they had and the information that's collecting, and then it goes away. She brings it up in this thread that she's thinking that the data goes away, so you can't look at all the bad shit we were doing.
True. Oh, kind of like to get ahead of this,
Yeah,
we shifted over. Huh.
yeah,
Which would be really smart on Google's part. And, like they're a forward thinking group.
yeah. And so another
Huh.
point she's making is too that like, all right, man, like what was better, Google Universal or GA4? What was more accurate?
True.
Google Universal.
Yeah, like not even close.
Yeah, it's horrible. So
And you used to get like age data in there, gender data in there, which,
yeah,
you still can get some of that in GA4, but like not nearly
no. So
what you used to.
it's a great theory though. It's like, hey, let's just kill this product, launch something new that's not as good, and so you can't get as mad at us because all the evidence is in the other bucket that we burned
Could
or at the
totally see
bottom of the
that.
lake.
Could totally see that.
Yeah, Google's not here to save you. Just no
No.
one is. Like it's so true. Like anybody that's altruistic about like how Google is and that they have the best interest for you, dude. I've been doing this too long. And you have been too, like on the SEO and on the paid side. They don't give a fuck about
No.
you. They don't care. They look at you as a ones and zero on a bank account. That's it.
And
That's
they
it.
have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders.
Yeah. That's why I'd love to have some diversity in search platforms. I mean, AI will eventually take over some of that search volume, but it's like me personally, it's like I like ads and I like SEO because that's how I make money. So like, please keep search engines around for a while. But let's have some diversity. Like, hey, Bing, come on, people, start using fucking Bing.
Well, I agree because I do think, like, I do like the case that, like, either paid or organic, you have to do your due diligence on your site, on your business, on your targeting, etc. To show Google that like, hey, like this is a legitimate business. And like if you're ranking high in either paid or organic and you're getting traffic to your site and you're getting good business for an ethical business, like I think that's awesome. Like that's really cool. And that's a powerful tool that you can use on either Google or Bing. Um, so I do think there's a case to be made of like, hey, these are free products here, and like, you're going to get like highly targeted ads that's going to keep that service free, and they're going to be highly targeted, so they're going to be relevant to you, and you're not going to see a bunch of nonsense. Now, I know there's a case to be made that Google search results haven't improved as of late here, but I guess I don't know. A thought or question to you would be kind of like is that, again, kind of, is that a bad thing? Like, if we were to move to a world where you need to then sign up to a subscription service and you got to pay, you know, $10 a month to OpenAI, to Perplexity, all of these like LLMs to do your searching when there's no tracking, is that a better world than, hey, you get this search engine that does all this crawling for you completely for free, but there's this component of, targeting included? Like, I don't know. I kind of can see both, and don't really know how you can have an ads based platform without some type of user tracking to it.
Yeah, I don't. I see a catch on both sides as well.
Because like it's almost impossible to think, okay, we'll get diversity here with a bunch of different LLMs and then Bing and Google, etc. If they all then have text ads or whatever, there's an ad based platform or an ad model. How do any of those platforms do that without tracking user data? I guess you could just be a little bit more keyword based. Like, I was reading up on DuckDuckGo recently, and they said that their text ads are just keyword based. It is just connected from that keyword to your landing page, to your ad copy, and that is it. There's no like demographics or targeting connected to it. And dude, maybe that's better. Maybe that would give advertisers more control, um, versus like what we're kind of like doing now, like kind of trusting smart bidding and trusting the algorithm. Maybe it was just like, hey, dude, here's my keyword. I want to pay this much for it. Show it as often as people search it. I don't know. So just talking this through, maybe that's a better model and a better
I
world.
mean, I do think that like search because of the intent, the implied intent, for sure, that could completely work. That's what we used to do, 10, 15 years ago. It's like, that was it. I want to bid on this term because I know people are searching for it. Show these people ads. Now it's like so much more complex where it's, the filtering and the demographics, etc., in market segments. Do I trust that data? I don't know. But yeah, going to maybe a simplified model could work in that scenario. But
I actually really like that, just like talking that through, because I was kind of starting out by saying, how can you have an ad based platform without tracking user data? But if you just tie it to keywords, the intent's there. They're telling you what they're searching for.
so
Like, it makes total sense that that's how it could operate.
why would Google add all these other elements beyond just search keywords, like all the configurations? Why?
I think that's a great point. Or what I think you're alluding to is like to kind of hide some shit and muck it up and make some more money, you know?
I
Because dude,
honestly
you
don't
could,
know. I don't actually have an answer to that. I'm just like, well, why do you want to, for better targeting, I guess, right? That would be like my first assumption is like, oh, I only want to target people that are this age group. There's a huge unknown bucket that always happens. So it's like, is it really that effective? Like, why would they make it more complicated, like you said? Um,
I would guess it's probably like a couple things there. I think just to make it a little bit more complicated. So like they could have some additional funds pouring through there. I think there's probably like a little case to be made of like, hey, instead of just doing keywords, then we could take it a step further and like layer on targeting like audiences and be even more specific. So like, that person's in like your ICP and like that is who you want to go after. Like, I think there definitely could be a case to be made there. But at the
but if
same time, to your point, there's
if your
the
search
intent's
terms,
already there.
yeah, if your search terms are that dialed in, then you don't need that layering, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that makes total sense
So
there.
here's my other thought. Why why do we have broadened phrase? Why would they introduce that?
I think their cases, they understand intent, like, so um instead of having an account where like you bid on the term basketball shoes and then somebody searches b-ball shoes, I think their argument would be like, hey, it's the same thing essentially. So like we want to make sure that like you're eligible for that search and you don't miss out on that. Um, I think that would probably be their case.
Wouldn't it be better, or an idea at least, that in that example, I'm bidding on basketball shoes and I'm only going to have my ad show up, but there's a feature like in the back end that pops up every once in a while That's a positive keyword report. Okay. That people also search around these terms. Do you want to add these keywords in? And the ball shoes would be in there. You go ahead and select it, add it in, and now it's part of your exact match campaign. That seems a little bit more of an ethical way of doing it, because I feel like the amount of false positives that come out of a broad match or even phrase match miss the mark, and you pay for that click.
That's why I really think it's in place, the complex nature of things. Because I think there's, a little narrative where it could sound good in a client meeting of like the advanced targeting, the hyper targeting, the efficiency, like all of those kind of buzzwords there. But then, if we kind of talked about it on a previous episode when you guys launched some ads on C42, you saw some crazy search queries pull through in the search terms report that like weren't even close to your keywords. And I think that ultimately benefits their model. It's just going to generate more clicks. You're eligible for more auctions, and like you're going to end up spending more money with them. Like I think it's interesting because it almost hurts them. Like I feel like in the just keyword based world that we're talking about, you're probably going to get some pretty good performance. Like volume might be a little bit lower for you, but like you at least know that like, hey, we were just matching for these search terms. Where like some clients that I work with, when you're spending 50, 100, $200,000 a month, there are so many search terms, search queries that pull through in that search terms report. And like, there's just so much nonsense that pulls through, and you have to be extremely diligent with your negatives. So it's just like a financial benefit on their end.
Yeah. So let's say even in that scenario, like in your, you have a huge budget, right? Let's say it's 100,000, not a huge village. Let's say a very healthy $100,000 a month, right? Easy math. You would say in that negative search term report, like how much percentage on average that you're kicking out on a month if you did it? I'm talking ballparks here. Like maybe
I would say,
10% of the spend is
dude, I would
on
say
email.
early on when you launch campaigns, definitely launch with some negatives, but like there's definitely going to be a period of time where there's learnings. I don't know. I think there's probably a case to be made that like closer to 50% could just be nonsense that pulls through.
Okay. So let's even
Yeah.
be like more conservative. Let's say
Over
maybe
time, you're
let's say
probably talking 5 to 10%
okay,
though. Yeah.
5-10%. But
Yeah,
do we realize though that in that search term report, we don't get every single term?
exactly.
So how much is that shadow like what is that other percentage? Is it another 5-10%? That's just we don't have data on it, so we don't know if it's good or bad. Like that's another. So it's like it's a crazy how inefficient
Dude, we should
that
clip
can
that
be.
because I think that is such a good point to make and like pretty crazy to think about. Like they're to Steve, just to like explain this a bit further. Like in Google Ads, there you have your keywords and you can see search terms. So those are the terms that people actually search for. So it'll show you like so and so searched this term, not like so and so, but like this search, this was the search, this was the keyword it matched to. So you can kind of see over time like what queries your campaigns are pulling in. Well, to Steve's point, they don't give you all of that data. So
Yeah, you might have
you
like
will only
100. Let's say you have 100 clicks in your campaign that you paid
you might
for
only see like 70 of those clicks in your
in the
search terms
search term
report.
report. Yeah, you maybe see 70, right? What the fuck is the other 30 that I paid for?
That is crazy. I feel like that is something that nobody truly talks about because dude, what if you're bidding on you're selling basketball sneakers and you got people like clicking on your ads looking for like I don't know, like just, you know, recipes or some that's like not even in your business model. And you're just kind of like Google siphoning, you know, two, three, $4,000 each month, just like, hey, like we're pulling that over from your ad account, but like you can't see what we're charging you for.
Dude, it reminds me of Office Space and the little algorithm bug that he made to take like a couple percentage points off of whatever every deposit.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what Google is doing, dude. It's like
Dude,
they
that's
got like
such a good analogy.
it's like 1 or 2 percentage points that they're just pulling off to like, you do that over time with all of Google's spend. That's quite a bit of money. That yeah.
That would be such a wild investigation to do if possible to be like, hey, this client spent $5 million last year and here's a search query report, and then Google gives whatever they were hiding, call it 20% of those terms that you don't see. Like, what do those look like? And how much was just utter nonsense that was spent? I mean,
Why
that's
wouldn't
wild.
why wouldn't they give us the data? Why are they hiding it?
See, that's the thing
Privacy?
that's that's the thing that's tough here is like they
Bullshit.
do have like a kind of a narrative that they could lean on. It's like, oh, it's privacy. But like, is it really like,
So way back in the day, when in Google Analytics Universal, organically, we used to get keyword reports coming in. Like you actually see what keywords were coming in to analytics and you connect it to a conversion. Like I've been doing this that long where like analytics had keyword data from an SEO perspective. The reason it stopped, they said it was privacy, which is technically true. But what happened, I have to go way back, but I know this is true. You remember the Google Wave product? It was like
I don't know.
It was Google's social media product.
Oh yeah. I forgot it was called. Wait, it didn't do anything, right?
Yeah, it was Wave or Google Plus or some shit like that. It was
Google
the
Plus. I think
so it
it's
was
Google
Wave
Plus.
and then it moved to Plus.
Yeah, because I do
So
remember Plus a little bit more clearly.
so some sort of security glitch happened to where they could tie back those organic queries to individual people. Like there was a breach. So instead of fixing the breach, they just cut the whole channel out and then just said moving forward, you don't get organic keyword. It's like because it wasn't for privacy, is because they had a glitch on a security side on their end for it. They could have kept providing it to us. And then they throw us a bone and they give a search console that has keyword data, but does not connect to conversions whatsoever. So yeah, pattern here, right? We're seeing a pattern here with Google.
I would love to be included in some of those discussions there because at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to make, internal leadership has these types of conversations, no doubt about it, and like, how do we want to handle this and how this could play out positively or negatively? At the end of the day, all of this like just leads to Google printing more money. But I don't know,
So
dude. I would almost make the case that like it hurts performance over time and like waters down your product. So like, sure, you're going to make money in the short term, but long term, you're actually kind of like screwing yourself.
I love that idea of watering down your product. It just turns it into garbage and it kind of junk food. So, dude, this is a crazy part too, where like I'm starting to think about this. Where like the internal executives having these conversations at Google, they're always going to make some sort of justification up.
No doubt.
They could feel good. There'll be some sort of justification. Shareholders, privacy, or we can't do that. Otherwise, it's going to get crazy and people are going to have to game the system and malicious people are going to put stuff up onto the site, etc. And like, dude, I must have heard it on the JRE podcast or something like that. There was talking about the healthcare industry and all these things. It's like the same thing that they do with the FDA. It's like you make some excuse up, to justify this, and you're okay with it. You can sleep at night. They're just making justifications there, and there will be something. I mean, that's where you see some of these Googlers that you know that work there, and they come up and they talk, and they kind of they're the representatives, and they're just full of these excuses or justifications, and in their mind, honestly, that's the reality, and that's totally fine. But if you really look at some of it, dude, it's borderline completely unethical of how they're operating based on some of the conversations we've had.
I mean, again, like not saying this is 100% fact, but like if they know there's a good 10-20% of that client budget every single month that are just going to get matched to whatever and then not show those terms, like that there's an actual system in place there. I feel like that's got to be illegal. Like that you could make a legal argument that that's not, because dude, you're literally paying to bid on keywords. Like that is the set agreement. And then if they are giving you keywords or queries that aren't even close, like I understand sometimes there's going to be some, mismatches with query to keyword. But if there's like I don't even know what you call it, but like a concerted effort, like a channel or whatever to be like, hey, 10 to 20 of those, like, let's give them some like nonsense because it's the end of the month and we got to like make some money. I don't know how that's legal. Like, I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe that you're just kind of like paying and, it's going to
Yeah.
happen and you kind of have to understand that, but 100% unethical if there's a concerted effort to actually do that on Google's part.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people are asking this question all that often because the product still works. The product still works at the end of the day. Um, but I think maybe to your point, it's become watered down and more difficult to do. Still works, but it's like I think it could be that much better.
No doubt. And that's why I go back to like, I think it's going to hurt them long term because sure, it still works, but I think there's, dude, you have to think like how many enterprises in America use Google Ads and around the world. And it's just been a thing for so long now of like search intent, it's bottom of funnel, it works, it drives conversions, SEO, rank better, you get more traffic, like it works. And like it's in the zeitgeist. Like it's been out for 20 years now. Everybody knows it. It's an easy thing in a marketing to, if you're going to go to a marketing meeting or say, I think we should allocate our whole budget to Reddit, be like, all right, that's a red flag. But if you're like, hey, I think we should do like 70% on Google, nobody's going to raise an eye at that. Be like, it makes sense. Even if it doesn't perform, to still have the majority of that budget. So I almost feel like it's just going to take time to like really get through the system to be like, oh, wow, there's a lot of nonsense in here. And I think we should like reconsider our approach and our allocations, maybe test some other platforms because it's like that, like mainstay Google and Facebook ads. Like it's like, it's been around for that long. It has the reputation, has the brand. I feel like to get it out of marketing budgets, I don't know. I feel like that's a multi-year process.
Yeah, and it would take almost something like an enormous amount of people to raise their hand and say this is a problem. I'm not cool
No
with this
doubt.
anymore. You know, like, and I don't know if you can organize something that to get that done.
And like it to your point, like it still does work, like organic and paid, like they still do drive results and you still can operate profitable in those channels. I just think you said it's gotten harder, no doubt about it. Like it has gotten so much more difficult. And I don't know. I almost feel like if we didn't go down this path of all this user data stuff and mucking it up with all like the complicated smart bidding and all these like expansions of match types and everything, if we just kept it a little bit more simplified as it used to be, maybe that would have given the product like more longevity. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Like advertising budgets continue to raise year over year, and Google continues to print more quarter over quarter, year over year. So like we haven't seen it in the data to be like, hey, people are pulling away from Google Ads, but I don't know. I would assume over time, if it continues as is, that will be more of a conversation that marketing departments would be willing to have.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it gets me thinking about like Google forcing PMAX on everybody. Um, it's like they're forcing the adoption of that.
And there's literally no search terms report whatsoever. Like there's some scripts that you could place in your account where you can get some of that stuff. And like the insights tab, if you click on into your performance max and click on insights, you could see kind of like themes that like generates volume, but you really can't tie keyword conversion or purchase conversion from performance max to a keyword. So that's like total, even
Yeah.
a one step further of all the examples you've given today.
Yeah, and you can't, and the thing is too, and I'm learning it is that in the hard way is like, especially with some of these campaigns that have been being built and you've looked over them, having a very tight, concise keyword set and not trusting the algorithm, you're just not getting impressions, and you're not getting the clicks that you need. It's like they say, nah, we're not going to let you have that much control. Go launch a PMAX campaign with this. We're going to
Yeah,
spend your money and we're going to get you relevant traffic. It's probably going to send some conversions, but you're going to have to pay more for that to happen.
no
So I'm
doubt.
just like, ah,
And they're talking about I do have to run here, but they are talking
yeah,
about like completely removing manual bidding. So I feel like that's going to be, I hope it doesn't go to a world where it's all smart bidding and performance max and that's it.
Like, how are we
and like
okay with
these smart
this?
campaigns.
Like, how do we get to a point where it's like we're okay with not getting a search term report? Like, how is that? Like, how did we get here? It's
Just
like
think there's
just slowly
nothing you could do.
slowly taking it away until like, oh crap, Trevor, we're a frog in boiling water and we didn't realize it.
Think that's what it is.
Leave it at that.
I think that's a good place to leave it. Add your negative keywords though if you're running search campaigns.
Yeah, put all the keywords in the world except yours.
Yes,
Leave it again.
exactly. That's a good way to end it. We'll call it there.
All right. Thanks, guys.